And we're live. Welcome back to LOOPcast. It's Tom, Erica, and Josh. And I have a few things I would like to accomplish on this episode. I'm going to stake out up top. Okay. So Tom Homan actually went on Dr. Phil's show, among other places, and finally explained the first enforcement action that sparked this protest. Strangely, until this morning, I didn't see that. So I thought that was important context to add. We have kind of where we are at now with the riots and protests in LA, where they're spreading to, what we should expect. We have a No Kings Day coming up on Saturday that we got to talk about. The political response and the historical context for the president activating the National Guard, how this has impacted polling. What do the majority of Americans think about this? CNN had some pretty surprising numbers there. And then why the left and or Democrats seemingly encourage riots, and it strangely seems only associated with one side. So I'm looking forward to getting into all that today. But first, how are we doing, Erica and Josh?
I'm doing great. It's hot outside, so the kids have evacuated the house to go find water somewhere while I talk to you guys. And so the house is quiet, nice and cool. It's a great day.
Sounds good. Josh?
It's a beautiful morning.
Beautiful morning.
I'm ready to dive in. I mean, it's crazy. There literally is so much news, and I can't wait to dive in. I mean, it's crazy.
Yep. Yeah. Don't worry. In LOOPcast tradition, we have plenty of good news and other stories going on as well. So we're going to get to all that. But before, the only reason we could do this show, thank you to Charity Mobile. Now more than ever, it's important to buy the way you believe and do business with companies who support what you stand for. That's why you should switch your cell phone service to Charity Mobile, the pro-life phone company. They send 5% of your monthly plan price to the pro-life, pro-family charity of your choice at no extra cost to you. Unlike some mobile carriers that resort to gimmicks to retain customers, Charity Mobile doesn't do 3-year price locks because they never have raised their mobile plan prices in their 30-year history. And all plans start under $50 before taxes and surcharges. You can save even more on every line you add, making them a perfect choice for families. Also, new customers can use promo code LOOPcast to get a free phone with every new line, plus free activation and free shipping, or you can bring your own compatible devices. You'll enjoy the same nationwide coverage as the big guys, and their live customer service is based right here in the United States. So to get started, visit CharityMobile.com and use promo code LOOPcast. That's CharityMobile.com, promo code LOOPcast. And we have an exciting opportunity to maybe go see a patriotic movie. Is that
Yeah. If you're looking for a night out at the cinema tonight, you need to get out. We have tonight only. So this is just tonight in a theater near you. Go see some evidence that America is a miracle. Going to the movies used to be a fun experience, but in recent years, there's rarely anything good to watch, and all that changes tonight. Take your family to see The American Miracle, Our Nation is No Accident. It was inspired, some of you might have heard of the book. It was a New York Times bestseller by Michael Medved. This exciting, entertaining, and edifying motion picture experience is being created, or has been created, in anticipation of the 250th anniversary. Josh, you're so excited, of the Declaration of Independence. That's coming up next year. So get a head start. Watch this movie. It is a miracle that the United States exists at all. If you have ever read Miracle at Philadelphia, you are convinced of this. And this movie will walk you through all the twists and turns of divine providence. Large cast, filmed on location in America and the United Kingdom. The American Miracle stars Pat Boone, Kevin Sorbo, and James Arnold Taylor, along with authors and scholars who comment in the film: Joseph Ellis, Richard Dreyfuss, Robbie P. George, and Jana Novak, among many others. So click the link in the chat or in the description below if you're watching this after the hour to get your ticket in a theater near you. Don't miss this spectacular retelling of America's founding into a worldwide beacon of freedom, the American Miracle.
Perfect.
There's so many times in our history where, during the Revolutionary War, it is a miracle. So, I mean, George Washington was someone who understood it.
I'm feeling that a little bit now. I feel like we almost need a miracle.
We do need a miracle.
So let's get to the basics here. I think this is important. I've been talking to people. I actually just discovered this recently. You just see all of the videos of the cocktails, the bricks, the fighting. Where did this start? ICE was doing operations in the country before this one. How did this one really just descend into where it is now? So Tom Homan went on Dr. Phil's show, which is awesome that Dr. Phil's doing this with them. But essentially, it was an interagency operation in LA involving many different agencies. And part of this is Trump's whole of government approach to tackling specifically criminal illegal aliens in the country. So we have both divisions of ICE ERO, HSI, DEA, U.S. Marshals, ATF, FBI, IRS, assistance from the U.S. Attorney in L.A. This was a signed warrant by a judge in L.A. for this interagency effort was being served specifically to a warehouse in L.A. So there's a lot of agencies because with finances, they're investigating custom law, tax fraud, tax evasion, large criminal arrests. When ICE finds a national security or public threat, if we go to a member of the DEA and present, the DEA can prosecute if they are in possession of illegal drugs or guns. So there's just all these different crimes that get combined, and it's nice to have an interagency effort here. So this was a raid of a clothing warehouse and storefront, which evidence suggested was cartel affiliated. The raid was only a part of a much larger investigation, searching and gathering evidence about laundered money through this company, tax evasion, evasion of customs law. The officers and agents were there with a search warrant, as I said, signed by a judge to serve justice and investigate. So they ended up arresting 40 people in total in this warehouse, many of whom were hiding from ICE. So that when they went in there, they were literally hiding in the rafters. They were hiding everything everywhere they could. And one other person was arrested for attempting to impede these arrests. So ICE is going to take statements from all the people they found and arrested, trying to identify anyone who was under forced labor, abused or threatened, trafficked, underpaid, or juveniles. This will help in a much larger investigation in cartel activity in the country, but specifically California. So, I'm kind of glad this happened. This is seeming like they're just snatching people up. I think it's great that we're taking care of the cartel here and trying to make sure we take care of our child labor problem and labor problems in general in the country. So this is where the rioting begins. So when the raid moved to the storefront of this warehouse, Homan explained that it took a while to serve this warrant, several hours, because of paperwork in various agencies. And the LA community is strangely very well coordinated.
It's like they're organized.
It's almost like they're organized, and they are. I actually did a little deep dive video. It's up on the Instagram and on the LOOPcast. There's a lot of great investigative journalism done on public information. One of these agencies or non-government, I think it's technically a nonprofit. It's called Churla.
They just go NGO, non-government organization, but yeah.
Right. So there's one that's kind of in the crosshairs here called Churla. It actually receives 72% of its funding from the state of California, which is all publicly available, which is crazy. Churla, some of the heavy hitters from Churla, they publicly called to abolish ICE. They're against any type of immigration enforcement in general. Their entire purpose exists to lobby the state and the country to accept more illegal immigrants or change law in regards to that, which you would say, okay, this is fine if it was just private donations or something like that. Seems a little suspicious when in 2022 to 2023, their state funding increased by 3 times, from about $12 million to $36 million. And for anyone that's not aware of the game here, they have a 501c4 so they can do political lobbying on behalf of candidates. So if you're curious of who they endorsed, Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, Gavin Newsom himself.
Shocker.
So these people get into office, and then, of course, they reward their friends by paying them more money so they continue what they're doing. The thing about Trilla,
and they're funded by the California taxpayers.
Well, no. The C3 is.
No,
Their C4
the
is not. But the question for investigators would be whether or not they're using the C3 to pay for all their salary, and then they can volunteer for the C4. We comply with all election laws here at Catholic Vote, but I'm not so sure these guys are. I don't want to accuse them of
I wish our C3 got as much public money as they did. Why isn't the state of Michigan paying for 72% of my salary? That'd be kind of nice. But I'm just pointing out the game here, right? Like we call it the nonprofit industrial complex, which I don't think people realize how the game works or why these places exist and are so profitable and end up being so effective, because they get rewarded by people that get in office, indirectly, directly, whatever. But the thing with Churla is they have a hotline that they participate with a couple other agencies, and they're very cozy with Democrats, but I can't go into detail on that. Basically, when they see police activity in California, they have a hotline to call to say, hey, I see men in military garb. I see someone I suspect to be ICE. Basically send out the troops. So activists get the call. They all end up at this warehouse. Of course, tons of surface area threat for these officers because they're just out in the open in front of this warehouse. You got people coming up and calling. Tom Homan himself, I think, has been great on this. He's like, look, everyone has their legal First Amendment right to protest. That's not a problem. If you're doing it peacefully, that's one thing. Unfortunately, this is absolutely escalated to non-peaceful means of protest. He said they were slashing their tires, they were physically assaulting the officers, and so that's where you start getting into more arrests, more fights. You can see on their drive out, people are throwing bricks at them. They're shooting mortars at them. I mean, commercial grades, fireworks. It's crazy. This has gotten way beyond anyone's First Amendment rights. So I think that basically leads us to where we are now. And so you see the escalation. Trump's deployed hundreds of Marines now at this point, among the 2,000 National Guardsmen, to basically quell these riots. And like I think we've established on the previous show, but I'd like to show again, the story that Tom Homan is telling and the news delivered by mainstream media are different as to whether or not this is peaceful or not. I mean, if you're on social media, you've seen the footage. It's hard to deny, but this is the message being delivered by California Democrats and the media currently on what's going on.
The LA County Police say that they have it under control. Carrying a flag is not illegal, as you know. What did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot.
Video after video has shown that these agents are the ones provoking protesters and also making up, aggression by these protesters that later video shows people were not aggressive.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
Unrest is isolated. LA is home to millions of people, most of whom are having a normal day here on Sunday.
You know, you've heard reports that there are riots on the streets of Los Angeles. That is not what's happening across the city of Los Angeles.
Governor Newsom's right. There wasn't anything like a riot happening on Friday, Saturday.
We just witnessed a protester thanking a National Guardsman for his service here in California.
LAPD, by most estimates, had this under control last night.
No, I don't think the National Guard is needed now. Things in LA are calm. There was a protest that got a little unruly late at night.
There have been no violence where anybody that was protesting hit anybody, shot anybody, threatened anybody. It's nothing.
Footage is showing people getting shot.
What is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn.
Most of those demonstrators were very peaceful. They were chanting, they were shouting.
Just remember this. Every time conservatives talk, our speech is violence. Every time these guys do violence, it's speech. It's almost like
for the audio listeners who didn't get to see any of that, just unbelievable footage of violent assaults, cars lit on fire, rocks thrown, fireworks shot. I mean, it's
the whole claim too that the LAPD had this under control is just absolutely laughable. I mean, I was just looking up these numbers, and for LA has the lowest number of police per capita of any major city in the United States. And a huge part of that was the defund the police movement was very strong there. So for example, per 100,000 people in Chicago, you have 426 officers, New York City over 400. LA is 225. They just don't have the manpower. And here's the other point I want to make is that you hear this, well, in LA, we were just having our normal day, and that LA is a big place. Yeah, in Beverly Hills, they were having just their normal day. Maybe out at the Palisades or what's left of it, thank you, Karen Bass, they're having a normal Sunday. But for people who are actually downtown, and this supercut that we just played, that was actually made, I think, right before our last show. Since then, there has been looting of Apple stores, Adidas stores, sushi bars, little bodegas downtown. And so for the people who actually live and work in LA, this has not been a normal week in the least. And it is always the poor and the working people who have to live in the inside of the city who are suffering during these things. But sure, like the media is happy to like sit out in their beachfront property and say, oh, smells fine to me, just a little extra smog because of the burning cars.
Well, that always frustrates me too, because it's like saying serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer eating people was only like 1% of what he did. The rest of the time he was perfectly fine. It's like, what the heck, people? Like, what are you smoking?
It's bizarre to see. It's bizarre to see politicians, particularly in the supercut too, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, kind of Kamala Harris as well, downplay even just one car being set on fire.
It was just one car. Well, now it's more than that. But
what is an acceptable number of cars to be set on fire? What's an acceptable number of stores to be looted? I know we're going to get to the philosophical reasons why seemingly the left really benefits and enjoys from rioting. It's very one-sided. And I love when people bring up, oh, well, the right stormed the Capitol and what? Some guy moved a lectern one of the protesters got killed. I'm not defending it as a good event, but the level of violence and destruction is not even it's not even close.
It's not comparable, right? And I want to point. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
No, I'm sorry. I'll let
Oh,
you go.
no. I had one more thing, too. All of those images, you see the Mexican flag being carried and waved around in the streets to protest, deportation back to Mexico, but they love Mexico. They bring the flag. Can you imagine, Tom, Josh, like if you guys drove down to Mexico City with a big American flag and a Trump flag on the back of your truck and started smashing storefronts, assaulting Mexican police officers, like that, you would be called white colonizers.
Yeah, but
you would be white colonizers. Oh, wait, that is
I don't know if
That's
we'd be
why-
breathing anymore.
It's funny, like you don't play like. Of course, that doesn't work. And what conservatives used to do would be, look at this obvious double standard. Like, how would this happen if the left did this or the right did this? And the problem with that is there is a massive philosophical difference between, I think at the core of like a true leftist ideology is we are on stolen land. The government is an oppressor and using illegitimate force. Therefore, any use of force myself is actually justified because I am fighting against some oppressive regime that's evil and hates people, whatever. And so it just gives you license to do whatever you want. They don't agree with the same like foundational project of Americans that say
they don't
people
believe
that
in
follow the
equal
laws.
rule under law. Right. They don't believe
No,
in
yeah, you're right. I mean, so here's the thing. A guy can cross into our country illegally, wave the Mexican flag, set fire to a car, but he's every bit of American as and anyone who's been here since, but my family's been here since 1694. But since we're white, we're colonizers, right? I mean, it's like, wait, what? This guy who comes in 10 minutes ago, sets fire to a car, he's just as much of an American as anyone else. Oh, actually, you're a bad American because you're white. Oh, okay, great, cool.
Josh, I know you're a history buff. I'm going to burn an early Twilight Zone pick here. Katy Perry has weighed in on the immigration debate and the riots at this point, and
it didn't go the way she thought it did.
You mean astronaut Katy Perry?
Yes, she did put the ass in astronaut. Excuse my language. That is a direct quote from her while she was in space. This is Katy Perry, Los Angeles, a place that literally began as El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de los Angeles de Porciuncula. I don't speak. Thank you. I don't speak Spanish. Founded by Mexican settlers in 1781. This was once Mexican land, and the people being targeted today are often descendants of those people who have lived here for generations or who came seeking safety, work, and dignity. Josh, do you see any problems with this characterization of that land?
I love it how she uses the original term, which is Our Lady of the Angels, which is, of course, the title of Our Lady. But, of course, what she's talking about are the Spanish settlers, like white Spanish settlers in California. So apparently white Spanish settlers in California are okay, but, not gringos like me. I think that's just kind of an interesting hot take there.
New tired Mexican settlers, wired white settlers actually had that first with the Spanish. But yeah, I mean, Mexico actually only had independence for like 40 years. So the idea of saying generations is also incorrect, but they were the Spanish settlers that
they were in Mexico was in California for about 27 years. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously Mexico was an independent country for a long time, but just that that California was actually Mexico was a short window of time. When you think of like the last 5 centuries, it was like a blip.
But that would require you to think in historical context instead of what just happened 5 minutes ago.
Logical, rational categories.
Which of course makes the whole like land acknowledgement thing, like that's why everyone thinks it's stupid and ridiculous, except Canada, I guess. But who are we acknowledging? You know what I mean? Like, how far you want to go back? That's why the whole thing is so stupid. Anyway, we need to get back on track here. So, sorry for burning the Katy Perry pick. I just laughed very hard at that. So now at this point, the political response, historical context, as I've said, Democratic politicians have blamed the Trump administration and ICE for exaggerating the riots, that they weren't required. I think we've pretty calmly laid out the footage that it did not look under control. And Gavin Newsom is now suing Trump and just telling Tom Homan to arrest him.
Brave and stunning.
Very interesting.
He's suing specifically to try to prevent the Trump administration from sending in the National Guard to Los Angeles. By the way, 59% of Americans support Trump's action on the National Guard. And did you hear Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass's arguments against using the National Guard? I love this.
Hit me.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass said, just an absolutely shameful use of taxpayer dollars that could be used to actually help people. Despicable, she said. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, his thoughts on using the National Guard in Los Angeles. He said, quote, think of how much veteran nutrition assistance and housing he could provide instead of dishonoring these troops, using them as pawns.
What?
This is the same governor that spent $130 billion on 375 miles of railroad. But he's concerned about federal spending on riot control. Yeah, I believe you.
Gavin discovers a budget.
Suddenly, Gavin Newsom gets fiscally responsible. I mean, like, this is the absolute bottom of the barrel argument they're using. Like, maybe I'll get anti-Trump Republicans to get upset by this and I'll use this. Who's buying what you're selling, Gavin? No one.
Yeah, and I saw that Mayor Bass actually implemented a curfew at 8 p.m. I think yesterday, and so someone has showed her the poll numbers of like, hey, burning down LA and looting Apple Store is not super popular with Californians or Americans more broadly. But I wanted to talk a little bit about context here. So the president mobilizing the National Guard, while not unprecedented, is pretty rare. And the two other examples we have for it actually was, Josh, do you know the two?
Well, obviously, George H. Bush sent in the National Guard to quell the LA riots in 1992.
Same city. Do you know the other one? There was one other time.
Well, the President Eisenhower sent in National Guard against to ensure the integration of the schools in Arkansas.
Only 2 times. The difference between Trump and Bush, though, is that he actually had support of both the governor of California at the time and the mayor of LA. So we find ourselves in somewhat of an unprecedented situation where there's a fight over whether or not to send in the National Guard. Trump wants to, Gavin Newsom doesn't want it. And so that's where the lawsuit comes in, saying that he violated procedure. The other element of this that's interesting is that he did send those additional Marines in. Right. And the only the argument for that on the Trump administration, obviously for safety reasons, but is that it's under the Insurrection Act.
Right.
I think.
Well, he hasn't.
It's Congress's authority to provide for calling forth a militia to execute the laws.
Oh, we're losing Tom a little bit.
Whoa, we lost Tom.
All
right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so real quick,
clarify it.
They actually asked, that Gavin Newsom tried to get a federal judge to shut down the sending in of the National Guard.
Right.
And it was, in fact, Judge Breyer, younger brother to the former Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer, was like, yeah, no, that's not happening.
He's well within his rights. Yeah.
Perfectly constitutional. He said you can have 48 hours to bring your best arguments and we can adjudicate this, but I'm not stopping the National Guard.
Yep. You back, Tom?
I'm back. Yeah. It was interesting to go into the Constitution on this. I mean, clearly what we're seeing here, I would say, is an insurrection. You're seeing Mexican flags waved and cars burning.
If J6 was an insurrection, this is like insurrection 5.0.
Well, actually, if you think about it, just compare it to the 1992 riots. That was a situation where there was massive civil unrest because, the Rodney King trial, whites versus blacks versus Koreans. It was an absolute horrible situation. And also, anytime it's in the summer, it tends to be a little bit hot, hotter, but that If you could send in the National Guard to ensure that there was law and order and peace because the local law enforcement was overwhelmed, then there's absolutely no reason why you could do it now when there is seemingly an insurrection. Like, it would be one thing to say, well, it's constitutional now, but maybe it wasn't in 92. But if it was constitutional in 92, there's no way it's not now.
Definitely. Right.
Yeah. And the LA sheriff, I believe, has done interviews saying we're overwhelmed. Like our people are getting whacked. They're shooting mortars at us. Like, we could use the help. So it's interesting, like all the interagency political thing. Maybe the most concerning to me is that seemingly one side does not want this help in their own country to score political points. I mean, do I put that below Gavin Newsom?
Absolutely.
This is Gavin Newsom. I think he's still doing a podcast as the city burns. But it seems like to me, we have a real fissure in America right now when it comes to prioritizing public safety.
Oh, 100%. Right. And I think that, this is to get into Michael Schellenberger over at his Substack Public had a fantastic diagnosis and explanation of what's going on in California. I would highly recommend everyone to read that. Michael Schellenberger, for those of you who don't know, he did run for California governor in the past several times, I believe. He used to be massive leftist climate change activist, and now he's really a free speech and, exposing all of the
Twitter files, right?
Twitter files, right? He was involved in the Twitter files with Matt Taibbi. So one of the best reporters and journalists in America today. But he was talking about how we get very confused. And I'll just read a little bit of his column here. He says, people sometimes ask me how California can feel so anarchic and so authoritarian at the same time. The answer is simple. It is not a contradiction. California doesn't swing between chaos and control. It imposes both on purpose and at scale. As we saw when the leader of China comes to San Francisco, the city leaders end illegal camping overnight. California is what happens when the state abandons its duty to protect ordinary people while tightening its grip on the law-abiding citizen. Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass didn't just preside over the most draconian COVID regime in America, they led the charge. They demanded the closure of public schools for over a year while keeping elite private academies, including the ones their own children went to, open. They locked playgrounds and beaches, arrested surfers, and sent police to harass churchgoers, all while cheering mass protests in the street. And he goes on and on. He talks about how they banned plastic straws but passed out crack pipes to guys on the street. Yeah. People lost their jobs over not getting the poke or wearing a mask. And meanwhile, they're using social media companies to censor all dissent, label truth as misinformation, and so on. And so he's talking about this is not confusion, right? We try to impose, why this doesn't make sense. It's not confusion. It's deliberate inversion, he says. It's a deliberate 2-tier, 3-tier justice system that's intended to tear down American order to replace it with something else, namely Marxism.
And I would actually like to take a moment. One of the arguments you see from the left too is who cares about a car?
I do.
Who cares about a few stolen TVs? You know what I mean? We're talking about justice. And I got to give
immigrant
credit
children, right?
Someone on Twitter, Robert Sterling, came out and said with his hot take, the Norman Rockwell painting with the guy standing up, he goes, "I care about property. Mm-hmm. I really do." He goes, "Pick up any physical object you own. There are 3 ways by which it came into your life. You created it, you purchased it, or someone gave it to you. In the case of one, you directly exchanged your time to make the object. Obviously, right? If you purchased it, you exchanged your money, some store of value that you worked hard to get it. So you use your money, your stored money, your earned keep to get that product, that property. Or someone gave it to you. In any case of those things, no one has the right to just take it from you or burn it or use it as a protest. The left is so full of garbage. Now, I have to say, breaking news today, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, he serves as the subcommittee chairman on crime and counterterrorism. He just sent out a letter. You mentioned at the top of the hour, the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, right? CHIRA or whatever. He sent the letter to the executive director, Angelica Salas, saying, I write credible reporting now suggests that your organization has provided logistical support and financial resources to individuals engaged in these disruptive actions. Let me be clear. Bankrolling civil unrest is not protected speech. It is aiding and abetting criminal conduct. Accordingly, you must immediately cease and desist any further involvement in the organization funding or the promotion of these unlawful activities. You know what? There is a new sheriff in town. I do think Trump woke up a lot of people on our side, to use the woke term. We have Republicans who are fighting back and realizing, this shaking your finger at them on media, on Fox or CNN, isn't the way to get this done. This letter calling for a criminal investigation, warning them to protect all internal communications, all financial documents, any third-party contracts. This is the new GOP, and I'm ready for it.
Do you see Mike, Speaker of the House, said he can't be arrested, but he deserves to be tarred and feathered? Speaking of Gavin Newsom. Awesome. Yes. This is what we wanted. This is what we asked for. So I last promise was talking about the political swing here. I think it's just, I keep thinking about this it seems almost as if, and look, I mean, I'm the tinfoil guy hat on the thing. Like the Trump administration made this happen because it'd be so good for them on immigration and distract from other failures. It's like the biggest softball handed to the administration on all the things they want to do. It's like you're seeing Mexican flags and burning cars in California when just trying to arrest criminals. You look at polling here. This is a CNN poll. Trust more on immigration among immigrant citizens. In 2020, Democrats plus 32. Now 2025, Republican plus 8. That's a 40-point swing towards the GOP.
That is insane.
That
is
is
what
crazy.
you call a sea change. Oh my gosh.
And that's CNN. This isn't like, you know, the right wing went to go found the good numbers.
Okay, so that just reminds me, Tom, I'm glad you brought that up. There have only been 2 times in my adult life that the party out of power in the White House have lost seats in the midterms. Every other time, if there's a Republican in the White House, Democrats will win in the midterms. And if there's a Democrat in the White House, Republicans will win in the midterms. It's like an ironclad rule of politics. But there were 2 times in my adult life where that did not happen, where, whoa, wait a minute, this is weird. 1998, Republicans way overplayed their hand on the impeachment thing. They try to convince the American people, this guy, Monica Lewinsky, he, you know, what the definition is, but voters were like, yeah, he had sex outside his marriage. He's kind of a lout, but I'm not going to just hand you Congress because of that. Like, you got to give me something else to run on. And so Republicans actually lost seats in 1998. The other time was 2002. Right after 9/11, Americans are super high on patriotism. George W. Bush's party did not lose seats. They actually gained seats because people were happy at that moment in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, how he was handling terrorism. But I got to say, I think we might hit number 3 because Democrats are completely screwing up. You are right.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is pushing forward issues, and Democrats should say, no, wait a minute. Whoa. We don't condone this violence. We condemn it. And they should be on front of it. The only Democrat in the whole country doing that is John Fetterman.
I saw that.
The one who had a stroke, remember? He's the smartest Democrat in the bunch right now.
He got
He's the one who
so
were like, you can't
criticism.
serve.
He got so much criticism from all the lefty influencers, from some people in Congress. All he suggested was that they should not support rioting. That's a bold, edgy Democrat take in the year of our Lord 2025. I'm not kidding. He got so much criticism for like, this is anarchy. This is not peaceful protest.
He's the canary in the coal mine. Like, guys.
Crazy. I could not believe how much pushback he got. Like, this is a bold, edgy
let him
take.
die, right? No, that's just
so
crazy.
I have to say, you know, it's a long time till the midterms. You know, it's a good 18, 19 months yet still. But I mean, these guys are cruising for a bruise, and Democrats they're gonna blow it.
Yeah. Well, and we're looking at even
and I'm
more.
not sad.
I don't know if you're going to get into this.
They deserve to lose.
Yeah.
This is what they have for the American people. Because
Pretty
it's
much.
like, can I show you this video out of New York City? It's not.
No. I know what it is, and it's so good. That's my Twilight Zone.
Oh, okay.
That is
Right,
that is a tease that one of my favorite videos I've ever seen. Maybe unbelievable.
He was willing to launch Katy Perry, but this one he's keeping for himself.
Yes, that was why
too good.
Launch Carrie, yeah,
for
Katie.
Sure. No, but I wanted to say too, and they're pushing me further because it's not just LA at this point. We're seeing, and we're gonna teasing the video a little bit at the end of the show. Then in New York, seeing it in Atlanta, but this Saturday, June 14th, they're calling for, what is it called? No King's Day. No King's Day. 1,500 protests around the country, including 6 in Burlington, Vermont alone. I looked it up.
The heat map's intense. It's everywhere.
It's
Boy, they
everywhere.
might flip Vermont to be blue after 6 protests in Burlington.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Let's go for it. But the way these things usually work is the grassroots, they pull a lot of well-meaning people in, probably mostly blue hairs. Like they're gonna go out and like free speech, you know, and rights, and you know, the undocumented workers. And then in each crowd, there's also going to be a few agitators who want to push the envelope. And the hope is that I think for a lot of these organizers that enough of it will snowball that there'll be newsworthy action, meaning some kind of violence or vandalism going on at each of these locations. And it just kind of snowballs from there. So,
but aren't all of these
don't go downtown.
Yeah. Aren't all these kind of a game, which I feel like the first person to act aggressively loses. So in this case, some people waving Mexican flags or burning cars, they were the first movers. They might argue that ICE, and Tom Homan explained very calmly that, like, hey, we were doing this, it was interagency, we had a warrant, we were all
legal,
kosher,
right?
And then all of a sudden stuff starts getting burned. So now we look at them like they're crazy. But these on Saturday, and just if anyone plans to be around these, please do not agitate any of these people, because if they start attacking first, they're the ones that look crazy. And then if the response to that attack is in greater force, that's what they want. They want to make sure that they get to put out ICE acting like a dictator, authoritarian. You give all the politicians stump speech things. You get aid for your cause. It's like, I think Martin Luther King Jr. actually, funny, someone brought him up. Oh, he's the gold standard of peaceful protesting. It was very much a part of the playbook to do things in order to get a response from the government. And then they won in public opinion because of it. So that's the game.
They want to martyr.
Although sometimes, it can backfire, because I got to give credit to the Babylon Bee. Did you see that? I just clicked in the chat there.
Oh, I love the Babylon Bee.
These guys are so good at satire. I mean, come on, this is hilarious. The iconic photo of the guy on top of a car where everything's burning around him, and the Babylon Bee satire art headline: "Illegals help film Republican presidential campaign commercial."
Yep, there's your image.
Yeah, the White House account posted that. I'm pretty sure that exact picture.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where we're at, the age of social media. Okay, on to some other topics of the day. So RFK Jr., the Maha Moms, all fired up. He fired the entire ACIP board. So for those who are not
promises kept.
Promises kept, promise delivered. For those who do not know what ACIP is the Advisory Committee for Immunization Practices. So ACIP supposedly evaluates the safety, efficacy, and clinical need of the nation's vaccines and passes its finding onto the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And RFK Jr. wrote an op-ed actually in WAPO about why he made this decision.
Wall Street Journal. This is the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal. Thank you for the correction. The committee has been plagued with persistent conflicts of interest and has become little more than a rubber stamp for any vaccine. It has never recommended against a vaccine, even those later withdrawn for safety reasons. It has failed to scrutinize vaccine products given to babies and pregnant women. To make matters worse, the groups that inform ACIP meet behind closed doors, violating the legal and ethical principle of transparency crucial to maintaining public trust. And as he's brought up examples, this is a systemic problem. The CDC issued conflict of interest waivers to every committee member. 4 out of 8 ACIP members who voted in 1997 on guidelines for the RotaShield vaccine subsequently withdrawn because of severe adverse events, had financial ties to pharmaceutical companies developing other rotavirus vaccines. A 2009 HHS Inspector General report echoed these findings. Few committee members completed the full conflict of interest forms. 97% of them had omissions. The CDC took no significant action to remedy the omissions. And most of ACIP's members have received substantial funding from pharmaceutical companies. Basically, the rationale was, I think all of the people on ACIP's board were appointed by the Biden administration, 13 in the last administration, and then the remaining from the previous one. And they would not be able to elect a new board if they would let people serve out their 4-year term. So he just relieved them of their duty. His argument was the American people voted for transparency and scrutiny when it comes to what we recommend to the public, and we don't want any appearance of conflict of interest. He's talking about basically the industrial system that's been built up around vaccines and pharmaceuticals in general have basically rewarded people who are within that system and have not been getting the scrutiny that they deserve. So that was our rationale for the move. A lot of Maha moms very happy. A lot of people in the pharmaceutical companies not super happy. But that's what just happened.
To me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, even if you allow maybe 80%, maybe 50% of the people on ACIP were being objective, trying to do a good job, they were still in collusion through the most anti-science, anti-evidence-based medicine regime in the United States. We have to start fresh. And RFK makes that point about this is about rebuilding public trust. And there are thousands of capable scientists and researchers in the United States who can fill those positions. It's not like these were the only 13 men and women in the whole country who can evaluate a study. That's just not the case. And so like the American Medical Association yesterday, they tweeted out, women and children will die. Somehow they know what women are now, but women and children will die because there would be delays on vaccine approval. And he's talking about replacing the whole. replacing the whole board within a reasonable amount of time with perfectly competent men and women who have, wonderful track records on all of this. To me, that whole hue and cry, and actually Father James Martin retweeted that AMA tweet. He's like, oh yeah, women and children will die. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's just
awesome.
Anyway,
do you
I'm excited.
I don't even know if we need to belabor the point, but if you'd like to see a sample of an ACIP meeting based on their 2018 recommendation of the hepatitis B vaccine, who knows if this gets us banned or whatever, but this is just straight from a meeting in 2018. Here we go.
Is there any comment on using this vaccine at the same time with other adjuvanted vaccines?
We have no data to make a recommendation one way or the other.
So just to sort of put this in context of other vaccines, whilst preclinical studies were not done using these vaccines simultaneously, our general approach to immunizations is that they can be given at the same time in different limbs.
Dr. Hunter? Are multiple adjuvanted vaccines used in Europe or other markets?
Dr. Ward, do you want to comment?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, I think unless there's any further discussion, we will take a vote on this recommendation. I want to remind everyone to please check your voting machine thing, and I don't know what it is. Voting is open.
Thank you very much.
100%
so the voting is completed.
100% approved by ACIP. So
this was like the worst oral exam ever given. Like while they're asking the question, and I kind of like had a flashback to like sitting for my philosophy exams, like what are they going to ask me, and then not having an answer. That was like my worst nightmare, was the answer. And they just approved these. That went on my kid's recommended vaccine chart because of that meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just again, it wasn't a vaccine. It was what is the term? I mean,
sorry,
like
you're not talking about Hep B.
No, I meant like the COVID shot. It was
mRNA.
It was an mRNA. It wasn't even a vaccine like we think of like the polio.
Right.
So I just felt with COVID there was so much bad science, but also just bad politics behind it. Because like if you really thought the COVID shot was good, then great. But like we had the situation where what's undermining science is that you can't, like in Michigan, I couldn't, I could go to the grocery store to buy groceries, but I couldn't go to the section and buy, seeds for my garden. It's insane. You'd have photos of politicians not wearing masks, but the grade school kids were, when in fact they were at the lowest threat, and it was adults and seniors that were under most threat. If you wanted to get the COVID vaccine, fine, go ahead. I mean, but it's not like a polio shot where you take it and you don't get it. It basically was an mRNA, and it was a therapy, a medical therapy. It wasn't a vaccine. So you undermined everyone's confidence in science by trying to blur the lines on this stuff and make it seem like everyone's got to do it. Then you enlisted the Department of Labor to try to convince all Americans who are employed by their employer to have to get the shot. So all these things were just terrible. Like the whole government approach that Biden administration had on vaccines. And there was no one in the medical field that, associated with this committee or the CDC or anything was saying, wait a minute, no. We want Americans to take this, but trying to force them. We're a rebellious people. Like, remember what we did to England? Like, why are you trying to do it? Why are you trying to impose?
Right.
Why don't you propose? Why don't you use the, carrot rather than a stick? And the Biden administration, their whole approach to all of this was absolutely asinine and undeserving of a free republic.
Absolutely. And anyone who did raise their voice, like you think about the people who signed the Great Barrington Declaration, lost their jobs, lost their tenure track, lost their research labs. I mean, they were just eviscerated. And like you said, Josh, it was as or more damaging than if you just directly infected the population with some mass virus. Oh wait, that's what was happening too. But it was like as bad what they did to public trust in medicine. And someone in the chat just mentioned the measles outbreak in Texas.
I did look into that. I looked into that.
Did you look into that?
It's a scare tactic. The
Ooh,
first
scare
question you should
tactic.
ask
Okay.
is how many measles cases were they dealing with before about a year ago or 2 years ago?
Okay.
And they're
We're
pretty
going to do a
comparable.
deep dive. I feel a deep dive
So,
coming on with
Yeah,
measles.
no,
and
they're
vaccines.
very comparable. Outbreak is a crazy strong word for something that they've
Okay.
dealt with the last
My
couple of years.
point being, though, that it is damaging. It is so damaging to public health to use that beating you over the head tactic, because it lowers public trust in good medicine or in talking about ways to actually make people healthier.
They
People
got drunk on power.
Right.
Remember,
They
it was
did
2
get
weeks
drunk
to
on
stop the
power.
cure. Everyone just take a beat. Everyone have an in-home vacation for 2 weeks, and then we'll go
I
back to
remember.
normal. But then I remember thinking at the time, well, 2 weeks from now is when the first people, the vulnerable people, are going to start dying. And you have a lot of body bags, and everyone's like, well, we don't want to come back now. And then and then 2 weeks became 2 months. That became 2 years in many places of the country.
Yep.
And again, there was no one to say, this is a really bad situation for people who have breathing problems, who are old or super obese. But for the other 90% of Americans, it's perfectly fine to get on with the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
But they undermined us. They're like, well, wait a minute, we could get away with this, and Fauci and all those others that got drunk on power. Like, dude,
Josh, you're missing maybe the most outrageous part of all this is they lied about where it was from and their involvement in creating it. It's like, if you were to just want to make people completely smash the entire medical community, you would have done everything they did over the last 4 years. Like, this to me is the most baseline, like, alley-oop, great. Like, I need heads to roll. The American people voted for heads to roll. A complete change in the system and how we approach public medicine. Complete change.
We may never get Fauci in jail, but getting rid of this committee, that
was a great start. Do it.
Great start.
Bye-bye, ACIP.
Everything about the last 4 years we were lied to in a shameless fashion, in a way that benefited people and screwed my future in terms of inflation. But anyway, we can move on. Good news section. Erica, you're up first.
Yes. So yesterday, the House Judiciary Committee made the first step in what is possibly my favorite legislative initiative of the year. They passed the FACE Act repeal. So this was Republican, obviously, Representative Chip Roy. He had put this before the committee. They debated over it, and they have voted to repeal the FACE Act. For those of you who don't remember, the FACE Act is the law under which Mark Houck, the homeschool father of 7 children, pro-life activist, was arrested at gunpoint in front of his children in the early hours of the morning and prosecuted. It was also used to prosecute the DC. Sorry, my brain is just going. The pro-life protesters in DC who had uncovered the infanticide at the abortion mill there. And so this is a really good first step. Obviously, there's a ways to go. It has to get through both houses of Congress. But I'm very excited about this. This is a crazy statistic. Despite increased violence at pregnancy resource centers during the Biden administration, specifically since the Dobbs leak, the Biden-Harris Department of Justice brought 92% of FACE Act cases against pro-lifers and only 8% targeting pro-abortion agitators. There has been an absolute unequal application of this act, and it needs to go. It needs to go bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, 500 attacks against churches, but, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Chip Roy press offers did like a FAQ on it. It's, false claims, and then the facts. So the FACE Act helps deter bad actors from targeting abortion facilities, churches, and pregnancy resource centers. He's like, fact.
False.
Violence against churches in America has increased 800% since 2018. An average of 39 attacks every month, coinciding with 96 recorded attacks in pregnancy resource centers since May 2022. The FACE Act has clearly not deterred violence. Like, if this is its point, it's completely failed.
Or incapable of doing anything to deter it. Yeah.
Because the irony of it, it never was created to do that. There were already things to protect something like that. It was intentionally created to punish pro-life protesters. And
it's important to remember too that a lot of times when it comes to politics, it takes a while to win the argument, and this is an important step. Chip Roy's doing the Lord's work here on this, putting out that FAQ, like you said, and getting this passed by the committee, the Judiciary Committee in the House. And it might even, it might be debated in the House this year. Maybe it doesn't pass. Maybe it has to wait another year. But you have to keep building on this stuff, and then eventually get to the point where Democrats are shamed to have to vote for it. Enough of the moderate Dems, and then you can get this repealed. but this takes a while, these kind of things. Like we need these opportunities, like getting it past the Judiciary Committee, to bring this up to the American people and share what's going on, that the FACE Act is a total farce and it's done nothing to stop violence.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Josh,
100%.
good news.
Hey, I like this. It's good little news here. Pope Leo, he expects some basic clothing standards. Let's roll the tape here on this. This guy comes up to meet the Holy Father, Pope Leo, and he's wearing like a sailor hat, like a fisherman's hat. Like he's out fishing.
Josh, don't lie. You got a bucket hat. You have to.
There's no way on earth I have a bucket hat.
You don't have a bucket hat.
Not a chance. First of
don't
all,
believe you.
my head is very bald and very tall. I would look absolutely asinine if I wore that hat.
You seem like a bucket hat guy. I think it'd be good.
So this priest or bishop comes up to Pope Leo sharing this book, and he's got this goofy like fisherman bucket hat, and the Pope's like, "Take that off. Come on, we're gonna take photos." Let's go. He takes it off, and then he's like, "Okay, well, we'll turn to take a picture." And then the bishop realizes now he's got nothing, so he better put his bishop's little
Zucchetto on.
Yeah, Zucchetto on, and then they take a picture. So gold standard.
Good job,
there.
Leo.
Thank
Dress
you,
the
Pope.
part, Bishop. Come on.
Pope Leo understands public perception, PR.
Yeah,
That's
fake it
right.
till you make it, Bishop. That's come on.
Okay, my good news is Simone Biles has apologized. So the saga continues. If you were following last episode, she told Riley Gaines to pick on someone her own size. Ironically, that would be a man, amidst attacking her for defending women's sports. So she shares this. My good news about this is that Riley Gaines saw this for what it was, because some are calling this an apology. You might find some words suspiciously missing from this apology. So I'll read it for you here. I wanted to follow up on my last tweets. I've always believed competitive equity and inclusion are both essential in sport. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. And it didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. My objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful. Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. I believe sports organizations have a responsibility to come up with rules supporting inclusion while maintaining fair competition. We all want a future for sport that is fair, inclusive, and respectful. Simone. Some might say her PR team looked over that pretty thoroughly. And
she got it wrong. She got it wrong. Riley was not attacking the athletes. She was attacking the school for posting a photo of the championship team and saying, no surprise, you're not allowing comments, because people would say, dude, the reason why you won is because you had a dude on your team. It wasn't a girls team.
Right.
So we get this from Riley response, which I thought was great. I accept Simone's apology for the personal attacks, including the ones where she body shamed me. I know she knows what this feels like. She's still the greatest female gymnast of all time. Couple of things. Sports are inclusive by nature. Anyone can and everyone should play sports. Competition, on the other hand, and by definition, is exclusive. So the idea of competitive equity is nonsensical. Secondly, the boys are publicly humiliating the girls. To suggest that women and girls must be silent or ignore a boy who is publicly hurting or humiliate them is wrong.
Yes.
You can't have any empathy and compassion for the girls if you're ignoring when young men are harming or abusing them. I am not ashamed to be a voice for the voiceless. Lastly, I agree with you that the blame is on the lawmakers and leaders at the top, precisely why I'm suing the NCAA and support candidates who vow to stand with women. That's why I joined real Donald Trump at the signing of his executive order. I didn't see you there or championing this effort with your platform. Women's sports can't be used as an excuse for girls to center the feelings and validation of men and boys. I welcome you to the fight to support fair sports and a future for female athletes. Little girls deserve the same shot to achieve what you have. Wow.
I got to say, I'm so sick and tired of these kind of apologies, which really aren't apologies. You know what I mean?
Right. It wasn't. That's
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, well, I'm sorry I kind of body shamed you, but dude, you shouldn't pick on little kids. Like, well, she didn't,
Yeah, exactly.
But if you want an actual apology that's worth some salt, Michael Tate is a singer with the Christian band Newsboys, and he came up with an apology yesterday, and it was a real apology. I mean, he said he referred to recent reports of my reckless and destructive behavior. He talked about how sinful he was. I lied and deceived my family, friends, fans. I hurt so many people in so many ways, and I will live with that shameful reality the rest of my life. I can only dream and pray for human forgiveness, because I certainly don't forgive it. I don't deserve it. I mean, like, he goes on, and it wasn't performative. He just he took a break, and he goes, I accept the consequences of my sin. I mean, like,
what was the deal with him?
Like, he led a double life, and he was,
he's a Christian singer, and he was banging around behind the stage. Yeah,
that's tough.
Yeah,
tough.
Really tough.
Well, good for him for a good apology.
Yeah, I mean, it's refreshing to have, and people in the comments were like really amazed. Like, yes, that was good apology.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was right. You weren't making excuses. You just owned your sin.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Which is rare. I always do love the celebrity or politician non-apology apology. They're like, I'm not actually sorry for what I'm doing. I'm sorry that I was caught.
These words for a long time. Yeah,
exactly right.
I'm sorry that you're thinking about my problems when I'd like to how awesome I am.
I'm sorry that you are offended by my 100% stand by statement that I'm not going to change, but I'm really sorry how you feel about that. Yeah.
That's like marital counseling 101, how not to apologize. Honey, I'm so sorry that you felt hurt.
I'm really sorry you're so emotional.
You were bothered. I'm sorry you're so emotional about this. Oh.
Yeah.
Yep. Same thing.
Josh, your Twilight Zone.
Oh, now we're doing Twilight Zone.
Oh,
okay.
in the Twilight.
All right. So the front page of Reddit has some
which
thoughts
you should never
on,
go. Don't go there, by the way.
We go there so you don't
the
have
audience
to
go to Reddit, but the front page of Reddit had some thoughts on Jesus and immigration.
No.
Are you folks ready for this?
I'm not.
It shows a cartoon of Jesus throwing over the table at the temple, and this lefty's comment of it is, destruction of property is not a valid form of protest, but then therefore Jesus overthrowing the tables. Therefore, they think Jesus is in favor of the destruction of property as a valid form of protest. And I'm just kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm sort of impressed with the audacity behind this, because what is Jesus doing? He's getting super angry at people who are where they're not supposed to be. This is what you're bringing to the immigration debate? Go ahead, guys. I don't know if you thought that one through.
This has
people who are illicitly in the temple.
Disturbing amount of upvotes, like 17,000 amount of upvotes, because this is they really thought like you really got him with this one.
We got him this
Nailed
time.
it.
Like
we
we
don't
very
believe in Christianity, but we want to weaponize it against you.
Right. Not only do you not believe in Christianity, you have nothing but disgust for anyone that publicly professes Christianity. But I know that Jesus said something somewhere, so I know that I'll be able to control you with that.
Yes, I'll weaponize it against you. But, I mean, he's just kicking people out who aren't supposed to be there. But, you do you, guys. You use that in an immigration debate. Go for it. Thanks.
It's worth a shot. I mean, nothing else is working. They've already tried waving Mexican flags and burning cars. I don't got to do something at this point. Okay. Erica.
All right. I have one weird one and then I have a sad one. So I'll do the weird one first. My representative in Congress. We talk about Chris Murphy a lot, but I feel like Rosa DeLauro does not get the attention she really deserves and is angling desperately for with her varying hair colors. Well, she has a TikTok channel. So because she's reaching the youths. I think this was part of the study in how to get to young men. So I don't know, Tom, can you just roll the tape?
I mean, where do we go from here?
We don't. You end.
I can't even. We're probably going to get dinged on copyrights, which is stupid. But what is
80 years old? She's got purple hair. She looks like a witch. Go for it.
For the audio, this is like rap music going on, and she has like this fuzzy camera work, fancy, and then like all this like purple stuff coming out of her and hearts, and it's absolutely terrifying that this woman has a almost literal death grip on Connecticut politics in her seat. In more serious Twilight Zone news,
wait, before you get to that, I had someone email in the show.
Okay.
They spent an entire train ride on the Metro with Rosa DeLauro.
Oh,
and they said the only reason he didn't know who it was at the time, I think, they said he realized it was a politician when she was talking loudly on the phone and was speaking in billions of dollars. That was how he figured it out.
That's 1.4 billion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, to me, this is so weird. I mean, she's this 80-year-old politician who's got her dyes her hair purple. And she's going to talk to the youth on TikTok. I mean, I would almost like it better if politicians would just say, I don't care what this new technology is. I'm going to still be who I am. Reminds me of Senator Patrick Daniel Moynihan, who he would send, when he was the ambassador to India from the United States, he would send telegrams. It's like 1960s or whatever. And he wouldn't do shorthand like you would for normal like telegrams. He would write these full long sentences. He just didn't care. He's like, this is who I am. I'm gonna be who I am. I love it. So to me, that's better than some 80-year-old cosplaying like she's a hip 20-year-old kid. So stupid.
Yeah, it's really humiliating.
Serious hello fellow kids vibes. I agree. I agree.
Shout out Paul. I was actually on Amtrak. He's in the chat.
Oh,
today.
hey Paul. On Amtrak.
Thanks for the
correction. Yeah, she wouldn't ride Metro North, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He looks like a purple-haired Muppet. I agree. That's hilarious.
I mean,
our commenters today are on fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
Erica.
Fear and trembling. All right. This is from the next state over. So Connecticut has Rosa. New York now has physician-assisted suicide. On June 9th, this was a great tragedy. They passed a bill that legalizes physician-assisted suicide for terminally ill adults. It passed 35 to 27, with actually 6 Democrats voted against it, which was good and sort of a surprise. Approval to receive this quote-unquote healthcare, ultimate euphemism, Orwellian talk, would require the sign-off of the attending physician and a consulting physician, and a written request witnessed by 2 adults who attest that the patient is acting voluntarily. So you think, okay, well, it's just whatever people want to do with their own lives, that kind of argument. It's now on the desk of the governor, Kathy Huckle. Kathy Huckle. I always do that. And they would...
Catholic, by the way.
She is self-professed.
Well, she is. And she'll
Catholic.
invoke it if she needs to.
Yep. They would join 11 other states and DC in allowing some form of medical assistance in dying. The Twilight Zone thing for me with all of these kinds of bills that pass is that we already know what happens. Like, this isn't, oh gosh, I wonder what will happen if we pass physician-assisted suicide. We have the Canada story. We've seen it in the Netherlands as well, that this rapidly expands way beyond terminal illness. So in Canada, for example, this was legalized just 9 years ago, hard to believe, for anyone with a reasonably foreseeable death. It expanded in 2021 to include individuals with non-terminal conditions, such as chronic illnesses or disabilities that cause suffering. And then just in 2023, they plan inclusion of mental illness. So you can have depression, anxiety. It's been delayed right now till 2027 as they decide how they're going to implement it. But the writing's on the wall. It's coming down the pike. We see it already in Europe happening. We also have credible reports in Canada of MAID being offered to individuals facing, quote, social deprivation, including homelessness, poverty, or insufficient disability support. It's just truly Orwellian is the only word I can come up with to describe this. Totally dystopian. And unfortunately, another United States state just fell to it. So pray for New York. Pray for the bishops, the Catholic bishops in New York. I know that they're trying to speak with the governor to help.
She did sign it. I'll make sure.
She did?
Okay.
Oh, she did.
Wait, Hogan?
No, I'm asking.
No, it's on her desk now.
Okay.
I was like, that was really fast.
Clarity. I wanted to get
It's
clarity.
gone to the desk.
Yeah. Did you, Erica, did you say that Canada's MAID program contributes to 4.7% of deaths in Canada as of 2023?
Yes. Yep. So as of 2023, the most recent stats, 4.7% of deaths were inflicted on people by doctors.
And rising.
And it's rising. Right.
That is a shocking percentage of people
that
dying
is a lot
in Canada
of people
because
dying.
of that.
Right.
You know, so we got to, pray against, pray that Kathy Hochul could change her mind and actually veto that. I don't think that'll happen. There's another bill that's on a desk of another Catholic governor, this one in Nevada, to basically expand IVF, force all the taxpayers to subsidize it through insurance policies. And we delivered a letter, Catholic Vote did, with Nevada Right to Life and a bunch of other coalitions like Family Research Council and stuff like that, to encourage the Catholic governor, who's a Republican of Nevada, is not super reliable on our issues. hopefully he'll recognize that this is not what we need, and it's a boondoggle and also morally problematic. So pray also for the Nevada governor that he'll veto that. We just gave the Daily Wire the scoop on that, so that story broke this morning.
Yeah, I've been talking to people specifically about IVF because the Trump action on it has really raised it, I think, of people's consciences. And it's similar to me in the mind of the problems that I had with the CDC and the government approach to medicine, in that I think it's also a very predatory, and the incentives are messed up, because the first thing that are told to couples that want to conceive but can't are immediately IVF, almost always. Like, I was talking to a friend who was like, yeah, we saw like 6 different OBGYNs, 2 of them Catholic. First thing they said every time, yeah, go do IVF. And I don't even know how much these doctors really know too much about IVF either.
Right.
And the couples certainly don't know much about IVF. They just want to have a baby, and they're told this is the only way. This is the quickest, only way. It's expensive. It's predatory. It's sci-fi, morally.
It creates children that you
problem.
don't. Right.
And I would say, like, most normal people, if you were to hear all of that, would be like, oh yeah, that is kind of concerning and invasive. Why would I? It seems like there should be other options. And of course there are other options, but the way that the incentive structure works is just, that is the only thing promoted. So it's another one of those things. I feel like I'd love to see the medical community really make significant advances on actually taking care of people.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, like, you have these people on the left, like the Bernie Sanders, are talking about these corporations and the billions of dollars and the corruption and the incentives they have, where they're putting profits first and not people. Now, of course, I think that's all of capitalism, right?
Right.
So if I sell candy bars to you and somehow, and if I get wealthy of it, I'm evil. But like, this is a case where there's a lot of people, you're right, that could have fertility issues, and the IVF industry is a hammer and everything is a nail. And that's the only solution they give to anyone, where it's like, well, actually, no, hold on. Because there's no incentive, you're right, for them to give them an affordable, effective answer outside of that.
Right.
Yeah.
They want the money.
Rosie, if you have quick stats while I do mine, the fertility industry is shockingly large. Like the profits and how big it is, it's becoming kind of a titan, especially when you get government
100%.
help the way that they're going to get. It's crazy. Okay. Josh, we teased it earlier. I saved it until now. This is what I like to call another edition of the Victim Olympics and a problem of the modern left.
I think we have a gold medal here. This one might be a gold medel.
Yeah, this one was a winner. I believe this is in New York. This was, Josh, your favorite, when protesters block the road so that people can't drive. Here we go. Okay, to set the scene too for the audios, this is 2 white liberals in New York City talking to a black woman that they are blocking her route to go to work.
But I have a kid. If I know that these people are having their children taken and their parents, what about my kids? Look at this. Then what happens to my kid? I can't help it. But you can if you could just move off the way. You're not going to. How is this a peaceful protest if there's nothing to do? No, it's not.
How do you as white people feel about stopping a black woman from going to work?
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to. We're just trying to leave.
Unbelievable.
Okay, I mean, this is hilarious. Like, look at the disdain that this guy with a man bun,
complete with man bun,
total disdain for people who work. And I got to tell you, this actually dovetails with another video. We should totally show this. Like, this is the new Democratic coalition. It's white liberals who feel super guilty about it, but it's also not just them. There's another thing here. There's this woman. She decides to do a TikTok video. Did you see this one?
I got scared away from it, but
let's roll the tape here.
All right, here we go.
Because these mass... Hey, Viv, these mass deportations are going to help out real Americans, right?
I'm going to stop you right there. First off, if watching families being ripped apart does not appeal to your humanity, let me try and appeal to you financially, because these mass ICE deportations are bad for the economy. So while undocumented immigrants actually make up a really small portion of the overall workforce, they are overrepresented in jobs that you do not want. Things that have little benefits, long hours, backbreaking work with no pay. For example, about 42% of the agricultural workforce, 23% of the construction workforce are undocumented. And let's be real, these are self-reported numbers, so those are probably light. But the short of it all is that the food that you eat and the home that you live in was probably brought to you by someone who is an immigrant. The Made in America for Americans Tagline, yeah, it's actually made by immigrants. Not only are these mass ICE deportations going to result in a tax revenue loss of over $1 trillion every single year, get ready to wait longer at your favorite neighborhood restaurant. You're going to see a shortage in Uber and Lyft drivers, delivery order people, and you're going to see prices for meat, seafood, dairy, and produce all go up at your grocery store. If you are not
Okay,
deeply
so let's just
disturbed,
talk about what's really going on here. The left needs a slave economy. Right. She's got her laptop fake job and she gets Uber Eats delivered to her house by immigrants who get paid dirt and she doesn't care, but she's fighting injustice. So she is exempt from all of this.
Right.
Dude, you are the problem, woman. Look at, I mean, and this is what just cracks me up, including the white bund guy, dude too. That black woman's looking at this and thinking to myself, I think I'm with Trump on this one.
Yep.
You are literally pushing Hispanics and blacks into Donald Trump's hands. He's like, you guys are insane. We have this crazy coalition of urban sophisticates who use slave labor and think they're justice warriors.
Exactly. It's just
I can't
crazy.
wait for the next election. Let's go.
That
I loved
line
watching.
he dropped. Oh no, not work.
Yeah. Oh no, not work.
I could not believe that got out of his mouth. Like, first off, where's your job? This is like, what are you doing? Like,
that is his job. He's a paid dictator by some left-wing group. My tax money is paying for this SOB to stop someone else from going to their job.
And did you hear the woman? She's saying, what about my kids? What about my kids? Because the little white woman, the liberal woman is like, what about the immigrant families? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what about my kids? If I can't get to work, they don't eat. And they just they laughed at her. They laughed at her. I loved The View this week. I mean, The View is just always on giving. So Sonny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg, they're talking about how this is going to lead to civil war. This is civil war. And I'm like, yeah, you know what also happened during the Civil War? The South had built its economy on a slave economy. You guys are on the side of the slavers and the plantation owners and the slave catchers. And they're trying to convince me that somehow I'm the one who's like the racist and the phobe and all these things. But it's because it gets pushed to violence because it has touched them in their pocketbooks and their economy. And it's because they rely on who will scrub my toilets. They need that slave who's going to pick my avocados.
Do you
Who's
know?
going to deliver my Uber Eats?
Do you know The View? They delivered us that line. They had the lady with the pink hair was on The View.
The pink hair on The View, yeah. The lady with the pink hair.
Donald Trump. Not even that was like a British accent. I was like,
yeah, it was Ozzy Osbourne's daughter. Yeah.
What world are we living in? Get a job. Like I can we get ICE in there right now to deport those people? Like anyone that blocks the street for anything.
The Democratic Party's ability to rally behind 20%, 80-20 issues that they're the wrong side of.
It's a talent that they have.
It's remarkable. And Donald Trump has just found a way to get into their, get in their heads. So Donald Trump is a man of appetites. He's got his vices, I know. But the fact is, he is a political genius. Stop pretending he's an idiot. This guy's no fool. He knows exactly what he's doing. You guys, just all you have to do is not be insane.
Right.
And you would win the midterms. But can't help yourself.
Is he
because
really?
You hate America.
I do think he's a good politician. But I almost feel like it's like they're losing themselves. Like he must just think these people are so stupid. Like you're handing me a win and he's just taking what they're handing to him. I don't want to take away from him, but like
this spring should have been how Elon Musk was starting to get to very unpopular political cuts on programs that Americans liked. But instead we're talking about a Mexican waving a flag in front of a car and set on fire. And Democrats can't condemn it, and they're mad. They're suing that we would send in the National Guard.
I'm just trying to think of, I'm trying to think of the images that the left has handed Donald Trump. And like, we had obviously the assassination attempt, the fight image that was massive. And then we had, Trump himself, I guess, did the McDonald's thing. That was also iconic, but they handed that to him.
No, they handed it to her because Kamala
was like, I worked at McDonald's, right? Yeah. And it's just.
But she never did.
Yep. And then we get the Mexican on top of the car, the Mexican flag. I mean, they just keep doing it. We'll see.
Actually, what isn't the OG when he was at the correspondence dinner and Obama was making fun of him? And that was the moment. You see his side profile, like it's over.
2011, bro. They
I'm
stepped
torching
in it.
these people. Yeah. All right. Good show, gang. I think we hopefully covered things pretty well. If you want to help us out, go subscribe to the Champions Club, catholicvote.org/champions. Check out our sponsors, Charity Mobile and The American Miracle. Go check out a movie if you guys are in the mood. Should be great.
And for our podcast listeners and people watching on YouTube, you should sign up for the Loop. It's go to catholicvote.org. Sign up for the Loop. It's our free daily email newsletter. Lots of great information and news. I mean, we can't cover everything in this podcast, but go check it out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. catholicvote.org/getloop. Pray for us. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Pray for us. We will be back with another great show on Friday. See you then.